this video, I'll be teaching you Lesson 11.4, Inflation and the Time Value of Money. So in this chapter so far, we have looked at simple interest. We looked how to find that simple interest using months and years. We've also looked at finding simple interest using days, also how to calculate future dates, and then we've also looked at maturity value. In this lesson, Lesson 11.4, we'll be talking about inflation and how it affects interest rates, how it affects investments, and we'll be introducing not new formulas, but looking at formulas we used from the past and introducing some new terms. Okay, so Lesson 11.4 starts on page 424. If you want to follow on in your book, there's also should be a handout there available for you. We're going to talk about inflation. So inflation is the rise in the general price level of goods and services. This is normal. Each year, inflation goes up on everything. And what that means is prices increase on everything that is out there. They don't really increase in value, they just increase in price, and this is due to inflation. The federal government has something called the Consumer Price Index, also known as the Cost of Living Index. And what that is they take a common bundle of goods and services that is purchased by the average consumer, and then they can calculate each year how much inflation has gone up on the cost of living. And so that number is important to, especially if you understand the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve's job is to monitor inflation to make sure it doesn't go too high. So we'll get into all that in a little bit here. So in this first example, we are given to do a comparison for this individual's income. And in this individual's income, their annual income after taxes is $19,800. Zoom in here a bit. The inflation rate at this time is currently at 4.8%. So we need to see, okay, what is the amount of increase? How much of this annual income needs to be set aside excuse me, for inflation? So we simply do equals annual income times inflation. $950.40 is included into here for inflation. Now, we introduced a couple new terms. Future value. Whenever we refer to future value in this lesson, we are talking about maturity value. So if I say future value, maturity value is the same thing in this one. So what would be the necessary maturity value at the end of the year for this inflation and annual income? And all we do is add the annual income plus the increase and $20,750.40. Now, the question goes on to say, okay, what if this person's boss or employer only gives them a 2% raise? So this $20,750.40, this is the minimum that this person needs to make the following year to match what they made from the previous year. Because if they're below that, that means they're actually making less money than they did from the year before. So amount of increase is the same process, annual income times raise, $396. So when we add the future value or maturity value, annual income plus amount of increase, $20,196. So what is the difference between the two here? If we're looking at the inflation amount, we would get $20,750.40. And if we look at the amount of the raise, $20,196. The difference between the two, the raise minus the inflation, we are making $554.40 less than we were the year before because of inflation. So when you get in your career path, you'll have annual reviews with your employer, and they will generally give you a raise that should match the amount of inflation that's taking place, which is nice, but it doesn't mean you're really making much more unless you had a very strong year. So let's say inflation is 5%. Your employer gives you a 7% increase in pay. Really, you're only making 2% more than you were from the year before because of inflation. So this is why the federal government monitors it to make sure that inflation doesn't get out of hand. All right, so as we mentioned, we have something called future value, which is the same thing as maturity value. And this is the same formula that we used in lesson 11.3. And then we have something called present value or principal, same thing. Here's the formula to find that one. So in this example too, if you look on page 427 at the bottom, it says that Joanne loans her inheritance of $28,500 to her aunt for 9 1/4 simple interest on May 30th. Find the future value of this amount on February 4th of the following year. So we need to figure out what is going to be the maturity value or the future value on this loan. So Joanne is giving money to her aunt for a loan, and we need to see how much it's worth. So $28,500. She's given her 9 1/4, which is 9.25%. She's allowing May 30th to February 4th. So we would need to calculate, okay, what is the amount of days from May 30th to February 4th? So we've done this before. We take our end date minus our start date, 250 days. Now, a rule to keep in mind when we're doing a certain amount of days is we're going to use the ordinary method, which is 360 days. As we looked in a previous lesson, there's exact and ordinary. And we want, if it doesn't specifically say what type of exact interest or ordinary, it is automatically assumed it's going to be ordinary every single time. So ordinary again is 360 days. So we calculated there's 250 days from May 30th to February 4th. Now we're dividing this to turn it into a time. Now we're ready to find our future value or maturity value. So equals present value times 1 plus rate times time. And remember again, the formula is right up here. If I'm going too fast, pause the video and you can look at that. So at February 4th, Joanne's aunt will need to pay a total amount of $30,330.73. Advice for life, try not to lend out money to family members, and because sometimes at the end, if they don't pay it back in a certain time, it just creates conflict. So hopefully Joanne's aunt paid at this time. Moving on. Example 3. Now we're finding present value. This one, a television plan plans to spend $280,000 for new satellite dishes and associated electronic equipment in 18 months. What present value must be invested today at 6% so the firm will have needed future value? So this television program, KLTV, is trying to make sure they have enough money to cover their expenses. So they're trying to figure out, okay, how much money do we have to put away today in order to cover all expenses in 18 months from now? So the future value or maturity value that they need for all of this would be $280,000. They are able to secure a 6% interest rate, and they have 18 months. So we're going to go equals 18 months divided by 12 months in a year, 1.5. So now we're ready to calculate how much they need to put away in order to cover this amount. Equals maturity value divided by 1 plus rate times time, enter. They're going to need $256,880.73 to hit this goal of $280,000 at 6% in 18 months. So that is how we calculate the present value or principal. Moving on, example 4. Now for example 4 and example 5, there's going to be 2 parts to this. Now sometimes when a company takes out a loan, they might need cash very quickly. So what they can do is actually sell off their loan to someone else. But if inflation has changed, meaning the interest rate is going to change, they cannot no longer sell off their loan for the same amount. They have to give a discount almost because the loan is not worth as much because the interest rate has changed. So let's dive into this. Example 4 says Gencor Refinery currently owes $365,000 at 9% simple interest to Bank USA. The note is due in 10 months. Bank USA needs cash immediately, sells the note to an investment company at the market rate of 12%. Find the present value received by Bank USA. All right, so Gencor Refinery has the loan. Bank USA lent it. Bank USA is in need of cash quickly, so they need to sell off this loan. An outside investment company wants to purchase it. So let's put in what we know. We know that the principal on this loan was $365,000. We know that they're given a 9% interest rate. And we know that they have 10 months to pay it off. So 10 divided by 12. So the future value of this is going to be principal 1 rate times time. So the future value of this loan, if Bank USA kept it to the end, it would be $392,375. Now, when Bank USA decides that we need to sell this loan, the interest rate has actually changed to 12%. So now they cannot sell the loan for $365 anymore because it's not worth as much because of inflation. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the future value or maturity value from the initial loan, which is $392,375, at 12%. And since they're selling it off immediately, it's still going to be out of 10 months. But now our present value, the price ticket they could sell this loan to this investment company, let's put it in real quick here, is end up being $356,704.55. So since they need to sell it off immediately, the interest rate has changed, and inflation has to deal with that. They no longer can sell for $365. They now have to sell for $356,704.55. So there's a two-step process. As you're going through these word problems, make sure that you are doing both steps, because this is the answer they're looking for, but you need to find the future value or maturity value first. All right, last example, example 5. In this one, an Argentinian businessman makes a loan of $6,500 to a business partner on May 13th for 90 days. Interest rate on loan is 8%. After the loan is made, the general level of interest rate changes in Argentina quickly to 12%. Find the present value of the loan on June 26. So let's find first the future value or maturity value for this loan this businessman did to his business partner. So $6,500. The rate is 8%, and if you're following on your book, it's page 430, example 5. A time of 90 days, so 90 divided by 360. Again, 360 is ordinary interest method. So the future value of this is going to be $6,630. So this business partner is going to make $130 off their business partner. All right, but now they ask the question, well, what is this loan amount? What is it worth on June 26? So we need to do a little bit of date searching here before we can plug anything in. So when they made the loan initially, it was on May 13th, and he gave him 90 days. So the end date for that would end up being August 11th. So by August 11th, this loan would be due. But the question is asking, what is the loan worth on June 26? So what we need to do is calculate June 26, and then we have an end date of 8/11. So now we're going to subtract the end date from the start date, and we would have 46 days. So 46 would be the amount of time remaining on the loan. So up to this point, we can now use that 46 as our time. So the future value, which is going to be the same here, 6,300. The rates, inflation has gone up to 12%. And now the time remaining on the loan is 46 days. So we would do 46 divided by 360. Again, ordinary interest. And now our present value, we could simply put maturity value 1 plus rate times time, $6,529.88. So the worth of the loan on June 26 would be $6,529.88. So if he cashed in at this very moment, he'd be making $29.88. So again, in this lesson, we talked about inflation, how to do a comparison. We looked how to find the future value, which is also called maturity value, present value, which is called principal. Then we went through a two-step process of how a bank can sell off their loan to an investment company, how to calculate that, and then we looked at how to find the value of a loan in the middle of its time frame. So this is a lesson 11.4. If there's any questions, please let me know.